You're back for another edition of your Palm Beach Guide. I'm Doug Evans, the President and CEO of the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. And of course, we're full of sunshine today, not the liquid sunshine, but the good stuff. A little cooler weather this time of year, which honestly I love because you open the windows, there goes the electricity bill, the air conditioning stops, and you hear the surf is up. And today, one of my BFFs, quite honestly, here in the Palm Beach is Dave McClymont, who is the CEO, the king, the man who runs the Palm Beach Symphony Orchestra. And what I find fascinating about David is he has such a background with so many different things that he's done in his life. And he stepped into the symphony 10 years ago or so, and he has turned this around and saved and rescued. Hey, David, thanks for joining me. I'm so glad you're here. It's amazing.
Doug, thank you. It's a pleasure.
So, David, the secret to success, the tsunami, they called you a wave of success. Now you're the tsunami of success. You stepped into the Palm Beach Symphony Orchestra, who's been around 50 years this year, which is long for a symphony orchestra, quite honestly, in a very unique market. And you stepped in from a different background, and you took a financial situation that wasn't exactly positive, quite honestly, and you made a lot of changes. So tell me a little about, stepping in, what you did, what you found, and then maybe some of your skills in the background said, I'm going to employ this to make this happen, to turn this thing around.
Absolutely. Well, I say often, I'm just a spoke in the wheel. And I say that because it's true. It takes a team. And I think one of the things that we did early on was identify that in order for us to be successful and to truly turn around the organization, we had to assemble a very dynamic team, both in terms of the board of directors, volunteer-based committees, and then the staff. And that was something that we did immediately. I'm a big believer in what we call the inverted triangle. Mm-hmm. And you and I had talked about that offline. The inverted triangle is where traditionally the leader is at the top, and everybody underneath that leader has to follow the direction and the ideas and vision of that leader. Well, I don't believe in that. I had the pleasure of spending 15 incredible years at Bear Lakes Country Club, and what that taught me, going through many different certifications at Michigan State, Cal Poly, Georgia State, I got a Six Sigma from Purdue, was that culture eats strategy for breakfast, which is a very famous saying that Peter Drucker said, and I learned it when I was at Bear Lakes Country Club. How important culture is. What is culture? Well, culture is core values, cultural behaviors, strategy, mission, vision, and then assembling all of those, orchestrating them, pun intended, if you will, to make sure that you can chart a course of success. Now, additionally, we are very process-driven. So when you think about culture, you think about the things that I was able to learn at Bear Lakes Country Club, which was customer service. What is customer service? I think customer service is a lost art form.
Totally. I absolutely agree.
I think you've done an incredible job at the Chamber with improving and enhancing and elevating the customer service as a board of trustee that comes there. So think about it. Customer service is what we call that moment of truth. It's that first interaction. It could be a phone call to the Chamber. Could be a phone call to the Palm Beach Symphony. That sets the tone. It's the moment of truth. So we began to institute some customer service dynamics. We looked at the processes. We built up the board. There's so many people that I have to pay respect to and homage to that were instrumental in our success. Dale McNulty, who was the one that hired me, was a catalyst for our success. And I talk about him.
He stuck with it for a long time.
He did. He stayed the course. And I have to thank him and pay respect to him because there were many interesting things that we did early on that at that time seemed radical. In a case in point, the Cultural Council. Rena Blades reaches out and says, hey, we have this opportunity for the Governor's Conference in Boca Raton where we want to do a surprise performance. And we said, that sounds great. We'd love to have the symphony perform with the ballet. Who's the surprise guest artist? Vanilla Ice.
Wow.
At that time, nobody would have thought of the symphony collaborating with Vanilla Ice on Ice Ice Baby. So we go down there in front of 3,000 people. I go to Mr. McNulty, who's the board president at that time, and I said, we have this opportunity. Cultural Council comes to us. What do you think? He said, go for it. And I share that story often because I think it really speaks to the vision that Mr. McNulty had in being able to support somebody that was entrepreneurial. Not taking risks, they're calculated risks. I think in business, we have to take calculated risks. There has to be some data behind it that supports the science. So, I could go on and on as to how we were able to go from a $700,000 organization to $4.5 million, put $2.5 million back into an endowment that only had $100,000. It's our board, it's our volunteer base, it's our Ladies Guild, it's our development committee, and it's having that structure, that orchestration to be able to set yourself up for success.
David, when you think of symphony orchestras, which my background in the performing arts center business, most symphony orchestras in this country and the world are not entrepreneurial in nature. At least they weren't 10 years ago. And that's what I found interesting about this. The Heinz Foundation, the Heinz Endowment, they all did a lot of studies about why do people, the Ford Foundation, why do they come to symphony concerts? This was 15, 20 years ago. It was a social thing. Friends invited friends to come to it. But you've just talked about something that's bold, entrepreneurial, getting out in front of people with Vanilla Ice. And what you also did with the Christmas concerts in the past couple of years is blowing my mind. Most orchestras say, we don't do that. We don't do Christmas music. We don't do pops concerts. But you as a professional individual, I've never seen you, to be calculated risk, of course, hesitant to embrace something new if it makes sense.
Absolutely. When we were watching 360 Rosemary be built by Related and Mr. Ross and Gopal, I would walk by there every single day. And I reached out to Gopal and I said, I have an idea. What if we were to do a concert on the roof of 360 Rosemary, which is now being called Wall Street South?
Right.
And again, went back to the board and said, we have an idea. And then, of course, Jerry Schwartz, our 9 Emmy, 14 Grammy Award-winning maestro, who has just catapulted this organization, says, sure, be honored to do it. So we do a private concert up on 360. I think it's that innovative thinking, right? And that's among our core values is innovation. So if you're innovative, which we have to be, think about companies like Apple. They're continuously innovating.
Daily.
There is no way that we are going to continue to sustain the notes of our mission unless we innovate, right? So innovation was key for us. The other thing I'll mention, too, when you talk about process and you talk about the engineering of growing the organization, one of the things that we found to be very successful is to reverse engineer the budget. Mm-hmm. So anytime that we look at nonprofits, there's opportunity for you to take the expenses of that budget in that organization and identify fundraising or sponsorship or underwriting opportunities.
Absolutely.
Right? And it was sort of low-hanging fruit in the beginning to be able to do that, but we created subscriptions. We did different tiers of subscriptions. Now, because of Maestro Schwartz, who is bringing in Emmanuel Axe, we just had Santiago Rodriguez on Monday night in front of almost a packed house at the Kravis Center. So with all of these great guest artists, we've created a new society called the Impresario Society, which gives people access to those guest artists and some private events. So, again, it was just, to your point about customer service, creating different levels like the chamber. Right? You have different levels, don't you?
We do, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm on the board of trustees, and that's a level.
It makes it accessible for people depending on how much they want to invest their time and talent and treasure.
That's exactly right.
At that level and get involved because like the symphony, you get out of it what you put into it. So with your levels, you can just buy a single ticket. It's great. It's a wonderful concert, or subscribe, or become a higher level impresario and get more out of it. And I think, David, when you create those opportunities, people grow into them. It's not an automatic. We used to call the life cycle of the donor, basically. And hopefully at the end of that life cycle, there's a planned gift or an estate gift back in. So it's the circle of life, basically, those kind of things. So Gerard Schwartz, your artistic director, your music director, when you made that choice, I'm like, okay, this is brilliant. This is brilliant because so many orchestras in the past decade or so were looking for, the hot, new, young thing that is going to be we don't know this person, but we're going to grab them because they're young and that'll draw audiences. Gerard is an amazing guy. And all the awards he's won. Brilliant. How did you get him to do this? How did you persuade him to come in and jump in and do this? Because that's a major feat with his talent.
It's a very interesting story, and it's very serendipitous. And the story is that at the time, we had our final concert at the Kravis Center scheduled in April. Our previous conductor was ascending very rapidly, a Spaniard from Spain in his 30s, very dynamic, helped us get to another level, is given an opportunity 3 weeks prior to our season-ending concert at the Kravis Center to conduct the Vienna Opera.
Oh, my.
So he calls up and he says, David, I have good news and I have bad news. And we said, okay, what's the bad news? He said, the bad news is, with your permission, I can't conduct the final concert. I said, what's the good news? He said, the good news is I've been given the opportunity to conduct the Vienna Opera. So I went to the board and I said, what do you want to do? And they said, this is the opportunity of a lifetime, but let's find somebody. So I reached out to Maestro Schwartz at the time, and I said, Maestro, by any chance, will you be in South Florida on April 19th is what I think the date was. He said, let me take a look at my calendar. I'll get back to you. He looks at his calendar. He calls me the next day. He goes, as a matter of fact, I'll be in town. What we did not know at that time, Doug, was that he was in the final stages of his interviewing process with the University of Miami Frost School of Music to be the director of orchestral music. So talk about the planets lining up for us to be able to get somebody like Maestro Schwartz to come be our music director. Yeah. And I appreciate what you said too, because I do think that there's a trend, and there has been a trend for a while, where orchestras are wanting to go out and get the next best thing. And there's nothing wrong with that, right?
No,
that's building a future. It's building vision.
Depends on your market.
Yeah, absolutely. But for us to be able to get him, and I share this story often, and many people have probably heard it, but I just love to tell this story. So he comes into the Kravis Center for the dress rehearsal, He starts working on the strings. There were about 16 strings at that time. He starts just with them. And he was so focused on the bowing, he was so focused on the cadence, and really minor details. For 15 minutes straight, he pushed the string section, almost to the point where you could see them feeling defeated, as if, we just can't do this. Maestro, you're asking us to do something we simply can't do. Yet he was so brilliant that, of course, he was able to see the capability in them that they could do it. They just hadn't been shown how to do it yet. So after 15 minutes of pushing and pushing and pushing, they finally get it. He has the entire orchestra stand up and celebrate. All 75 or 80 musicians are standing up in the rehearsal space. Yeah, and I mentioned that story because in addition to him being brilliant as a musician, youngest principal trumpet at the New York Phil in charge of the All-Star Orchestra, was in Seattle for 28 years.
Right. Which is a great orchestra also, by the way.
That's a great orchestra.
Yeah.
And he helped build that orchestra, helped build Benaroya Hall. They have a street named after him in Seattle.
Nice.
So obviously from an artistic standpoint, he's incredible. He truly is. But more importantly, he's an incredible leader. And I think that has really taken our orchestra to new heights where musically, and it's interesting how you and I were talking offline about culture and staff, and different institutions. Most of our principal players are the same players.
Oh, really?
They are.
Okay.
So it speaks to his leadership and his ability to get the best out of these musicians. So it's been very exciting. And of course, our educational outreach, where we're doing Carnival of More Animals. We just concluded a few months ago with Forrest Galante, the big TV star with Animal Planet.
Sure.
That continues to expand in these sold-out children's concerts, residencies, coaching sessions. This year alone, we've set another record of about 175 instruments donated to Palm Beach County students.
I love that program, by the way. So you're listening to Your Palm Beach Guide, the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. I'm here with Dave McClymont, who's the leader, the CEO of the Symphony, the Palm Beach Symphony Orchestra. They have this program where you donate instruments. They get them refurbished or fixed or whatever, and they donate them to children who otherwise could not afford to have an instrument. And it's one of these things of the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. I was my first year last year. And it's something that I want the Chamber to do with you, David, to broadcast to all of our members, to show up to a breakfast where we have 500 or 600 people, to say, bring an instrument and give it to the symphony. Because, I was a musician. I started on trumpet. I took piano lessons, which I hated, by the way, because my mom made me do it. But I love the trumpet. My parents had the wherewithal at that time to make payments or rent on a Getzen trumpet at the time. That was the big name at the time. And it was a blast. But, a lot of kids can't do that. And the lives that you're changing by a young person who might want to come off the street or find a way to harness that energy, I'm a big proponent of that. It's amazing to me. Back to your music director, when I've watched him in action, I think of him as a Michael Tilson Thomas, who, for the listeners who don't know this, he's the music artistic director of the New World Symphony, San Francisco Symphony for many years. The relationship and love he has and respect for the musicians, and it's a two-way street, blows my mind. And your maestro has done the same thing with your musicians. And I think that's the best way to engage musicians who are highly trained, highly educated individuals to really want to work towards a common goal. And it's because of you on the administrative side and him on the artistic side. And I find that fascinating. So that's in his DNA as I see it. So with the programs coming up, I'd mentioned earlier the whole Christmas concerts that you broadcast. This year did how many broadcasts?
We did 8 airings on CBS 12 with Sinclair. We have an incredible partnership with them going into, I think, our 4th year with CBS 12, and it reaches close to 1.4 million people. So you're absolutely right. I mean, for us to have that opportunity, for any nonprofit within Palm Beach County to be able to reach out to 1.4 million people of the 1.7 approximately that live in Palm Beach County is an incredible opportunity. And we're very grateful for that partnership with Sinclair. And it's exciting. I mean, people on 8 different dates within the holidays can tune in and watch us perform holiday music. What's better than that?
I turned it on and I watched and I'd walk away and watch and walk away. It's like, having the Philadelphia Orchestra in your home, which is amazing to me. And with that, though, people then see that the music's great. They know who you are. And the thing, David, that I had in the past in one of my previous lives is convincing people that you don't have to be uber wealthy. You don't have to have a tuxedo and a fur to come into the Kravis Center to a concert. I told people, I don't care what you wear. Within reason, of course, but it's kind of funny there. But if the best outfit you have is khakis and a blazer or jeans and a nice shirt, a button down, whatever it is, just come enjoy the music. And you're going to find that the maestro is personable and friendly and fun. The musicians are smiling. And it's such a marvelous experience because I had a young person come to one of your concerts last year. She had never been to a symphony concert. It was life-changing. life-changing, and doesn't have the money right now, but at some point in time will be a person who'll come quite often. So I think, David, with your education programs, with the instrument program, the conversion rate, as I would call it now on the statistical side, the technical side, getting people to come is very, very important. So audiences are growing, correct?
For the audiences are growing exponentially. So subscriptions are up year over year for the past 3 or 4 years. Ticket sales are up year over year. Memberships are up year over year. However, more importantly, and I'm glad that you just teed that up for me, pun intended as a golfer, we started last year, and you know about this, so we're going to talk about this. We started last year, Meet Me in the Mezzanine.
Correct.
And I love the fact of what you just said, because I think the optics, Doug, for so many years with both ballet, opera, symphony, were exactly what you just said. Well, I don't have an Armani suit. I don't have the shoes to go. I can't afford the ticket. Nothing could be further from the truth. So what we decided to do was create this Meet Me in the Mezzanine for $25. You have access to watch a world-class performance, and you get a glass of champagne. And then we decided that we would go out to great organizations like the BDB, the Business Development Board with Kelly Smallridge, the Palm Beach Chamber with Doug Evans. You're sponsoring the final Meet Me in the Mezzanine in April, to give people access to have that floor, which previously was dark.
Yes.
We would look up at the mezzanine level and it was dark, and we all thought to ourselves as the team, how do we create butter in the frying pan up on that floor? How do we create excitement, get people engaged? And then to have these people that are telling us, I would love to come, but... And then they would fill in the blank. I don't have the outfit. I don't have the money. Nothing could be further from the truth. So we're really excited about this Meet Me in the Mezzanine. It's taken off. The last one we did on Monday night was with the Women's Chamber.
Fabulous.
We had an incredible one with the BDB. We have yours coming up in April. And then additionally to the organizations that we work with for the Meet Me in the Mezzanine, it's also open to anybody else that would like to come experience and test out this symphony for $25.
And it's, David, is accessible. You know, with folks listening to the podcast, the atmosphere of the Palm Beach Symphony is different than other orchestras in that it's welcoming. It's welcoming. It's warm. It's not like, oh, you don't have a degree in musicology, you can't be here. You don't do that. And that's nice, because there's so many young people moving to the Palm Beach County area. The influx of young professionals is huge. And to me, I see that as a wonderful audience, potential untapped audience for you for the future. And we're committed to making that happen. So the future of the symphony looks great. You're selling tickets, raising money. How's the fundraising? Good.
We are excited, and we just announced this on Monday night. We have been given a $500,000 matching challenge grant from anonymous donors. So we're working very hard up to March 6th, which is our 50th anniversary gala at the Kravis Center. By the way, we have a concert that night with Emmanuel Axe to work.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
One of the best. To work as hard as we possibly can to meet that match. So for every single dollar we receive and we raise, we'll be given $1 up to $500,000. So yes, fundraising is obviously critical for any arts organization, any nonprofit, and we're working very diligently to make sure that we work to engage the community to help us meet that match of $500,000.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. That's the biggest match we've ever had.
That's huge. An anonymous donor. I love that. Don't know who it is. Don't want to know. Doesn't matter. It's money. That's what's most important. You're planning for the season next year already, I'm assuming?
We are. Yep. We're hoping to announce in late March, early April.
Great.
And Maestro's working with Olga Vasquez, who's our Director of Artistic Operations.
Nice.
She also oversees a lot of the education with Bryce. And I always want to mention both of them because of the award-winning education is only possible because of Bryce and Olga, and they do a great job. So yes, Olga's working with Maestro right now, planning guest artists, planning rep, planning dates with the Kravis Center, and we're very close.
So, David, before we run out of time, I want to talk about Dave McClymont, who did not come from the symphony world, came from the private club world. You've done a lot of amazing things, and Dale McAnulty was a visionary to hire you. I knew Dale and his wife, lovely people, didn't know him as well as you did, clearly. Why would Dale take a chance on a person who's not from the symphony field to take over a symphony orchestra? It's a brilliant move on his part. He should, sainthood or whatever, he should have it right now. But what do you think the tipping point was for him on that? And the private discussions you had with him, I'd like to know. I mean, I would hire you in a flash because I've known you for a long time. Well, why would a symphony take on somebody that's so out of the box and different in a job like this, which is so staid and so boxed in when you think of the history of it? I'm just kind of curious.
I can't answer on his behalf. I can only surmise. I think maybe it was because he had a seat on the New York Stock Exchange. For many, many years. So he was very conservative, but he was very entrepreneurial. And that's a perfect combination. I say it's flying the plane. You have to have one wing that's conservative and then one wing that's entrepreneurial, and then hopefully they balance each other out. He did take a chance. I remember going into that interview and sitting in front of everybody, and everybody was asking, did you go to Juilliard? You went to Eastman? You went to New England Conservatory? What music school did you go to? And I said, I didn't go to a music school. I'm a business person. Oh, you're a business person. And he took a chance and he invested in me, and I am so grateful because here we are 10 years later, and we've been able, with the board, with the committees, the Ladies Guild, and everybody that helps support this institution, to make significant impact. And it was his investment in me personally. But I think it goes to speak a lot about Dale. Dale was like that. As I worked with him very closely, I got to see how calculated he was. He was extremely calculated. And I learned a lot from him in that, being calculated, being conservative, but being entrepreneurial. Because those are yin and yang when you think about it. Balancing those two is very difficult, because you either become too conservative or you're too entrepreneurial and you crash and burn. He flew the plane better than anybody.
My concern with you is one of friendship, is that we're going to lose you because you're so darn smart. You've done such a great job with this. And Palm Beach, you're native here. You were born here. You grew up here, and the impact that you've had on the cultural sector with an orchestra, which is a tough job. It's a tough product to market and sell because of the history of classical music and old, basically dead white men. Basically, what you've done to make accessible, David, to me is magical. Your background in club management. You're a surfer also, which I love. Every time I see you, it's like, every time, for the listeners, every time you're watching, I see the surf up in Palm Beach. I'm like, Dave McClymont's got to be out there surfing with one of his friends. So, David, I simply respect you and adore you as a professional, as a friend, as a leader here in the community. And on behalf of all of us, the listeners, myself, we can't thank you enough. I mean, what you've done for the community with an orchestra, which is a tough gig, man, you've turned this one around in every way, shape, or form, from Money in the Bank. But it's not over yet. We still have to raise money every year. We still have to sell tickets. We still have to get donated instruments. But thank you. It's amazing. And we look forward to the upcoming concerts the next season. If you want more information, there is a website. It is
www.palmbeachsymphony.org, all one word.
Or you can always call. They have a gala right around the corner. Hopefully it's going to sell out and be a huge success. March the 6th with Emmanuel Axe, which is absolutely amazing. If you're here in the local market listening, meet me at the mezzanine. You can always email the Symphony, call the Symphony to find out about this. Tickets, you get a glass of champagne, which is always wonderful, by the way. $25 a person. Perfect date night, by the way. Perfect, really high-end feeling date night at the beautiful Kravis Center. Great concert, and you get to meet Dave McClymont, his team, and all great support. So, David, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it. Thanks for being a pal, a buddy, and a leader of the community, a trustee of the Chamber. You've been listening to Your Palm Beach Guide. I'm Doug Evans, President and CEO of the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. Go out and make it a great day. And listen, come to the Palm Beaches. We've got the Palm Beach Symphony Orchestra and lots of great stuff to do. Maybe you'll even see Dave McClymont surfing out there. Make it a great day.